All right, team. Up next on the Second Chance podcast with Jeff Robertson is a fellow by the name of Eric Burns. And Eric is he's out of Cincinnati, former firefighter, but he works now in a capital company. Gonna learn all about passive folks that are interested in real estate investment, um, passive income, all the cool things that you hear when it comes associated with just the real estate industry. Eric is somewhat of a subject matter expert in that. So he's going to walk us through what it looks like to invest in real estate, what it's like to come work with his with Flowers Capital, what is his capital company, and just a great conversation. So if you're looking to make more money, you know someone who's looking to make more money, you talked about investing in real estate. This is a great episode. I think it's very educational. So let me know what you think. Appreciate you guys following along. All right, welcome back. Today on the Second Chance podcast, we're joined by Eric Burns, a Cincinnati-based entrepreneur and the driving force behind Flowers Capital. Eric's story is one of resilience and reinvention, transitioning from a finance major and firefighter to a residential real estate investor, and ultimately making his mark in commercial real estate. He's passionate about helping others achieve financial freedom, urging entrepreneurs to stop trading time for money and embrace passive income. Eric's journey has had its share of challenges, but he's leveraged each one of those as a stepping stone toward success. Get ready. Get ready to hear insights on risk, resilience, and entrepreneurial grind. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jeff. Looking forward
Yeah,
to it.
no, we've been trying to catch up. Our schedules keep conflicting, and I appreciate your patience with me just in
Same.
getting the schedules lined up. I'm always excited to speak with a public safety professional, even for a short time, on your experience and and why you left that world and moved in, and how that was easy, hard, whatever. But your journey took you from firefighting to residential real estate and now into commercial investments. Like, what was that pivotal moment that convinced you to make these moves?
Of course. Yeah. So when I was, it was a number of years ago, and I had done the whole, lot of the firemen do this, a lot of the firefighters do that side hustle. And I always wanted, when I was out and getting out of college, I always thought, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to build a company. I'm going to do this. And then I leaned into the volunteer department in my hometown, which is a suburb of Cincinnati. And the social aspect drew me in, and
Oh,
of
no.
course it was always something that I, thought was cool, you know what I mean? And then the social aspect drew me in. And shortly after that, they said, hey, Cincinnati's given a test. You should take it. I got hired. Things were going well as far as showing up, and they were paying me, and I was loving the job, and I went 17 years there. I retired as a lieutenant after 17 years. Did the medical retirement, unfortunately, but so during that time, those side hustles were not taking off, and I'm kind of going, okay, I need something that's really gonna move the needle, right? And I bought my first rental property. It was a residential property outside of University of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Predictable vacancies, all this sort of stuff. So I go and I solicited off market, not handwritten, hand typed, signed, stamped by me envelopes, and I got it off market. And in hindsight, it was the easiest deal on the planet. Um, and at the time, however, I got the keys and I realized I didn't know how to be a landlord, and I figured it out, and it went well. And I thought, well, man, this is a great thing. And I like I know how to build things and da 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 da. And so I bought a duplex and I started fixing it up, and that was a new adventure. And so I was going through that whole thing, and during one of those renovations, it kind of hit me that, I'm over here every off day, between 6, 10, sometimes even more hours, depending on what I was doing. And it dawned on me that I was only trading my time for money. I was working an hourly job. It was just for myself. And I always like to kind of jokes. I think when I did the math, I actually made more at my first job at the golf course as a bagroom boy, which was probably one of my top favorite jobs ever. That was a fun one. But so when it came time to look and say, hey, where am I going to find somewhere I can scale and that is really going to get me to that more passive level that I knew I wanted to be at. And I had kind of read a couple books on commercial real estate, and I really leaned into that. And I discovered that there's benefits to commercial that I was so ready to tap into. Namely, the scale. You operate on a larger scale. My partners are really great, so my network in commercial was really robust, and I could lean on them. Great operators finding better deals than I was finding anyway, and it was a compliment to their skill set and mine. So I had a great background coming out of residential, leaned into that commercial, and just kind of one thing led to another, and I just always kind of did the next right thing, the next thing, and it was and none of it's ever in my comfort zone. And I'm a big proponent: stay out of your comfort zone, see what you're made of. Um, take a risk. More times than not, it's going to turn out good. There's going to be a benefit.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fail forward guy. Not all these ventures took off. I had a construction company that we pushed really hard, and I ended up, kind of biting the bullet on the sunk cost, and we missed our mark, and that was okay, because by the time I had gotten to that point, and this is a couple years ago, I had already looked back and realized that failures are not the end. A failure is a lesson. And as soon as I could reframe any failure or anything like that as a lesson, what did I learn from there? And one of the things I walked away from at the fire department that I am going to be grateful for the rest of my life was the people, and the accountability they hold each other to, held me to, my own accountability to myself, and just normal character traits that you want to work on, like honesty and loyalty and all these things. And so, yeah, I just kind of did the step that was in front of me and just kind of landed where I landed and did the next one. And,
Super cool, man. Like it's, you said a lot there, right? It's not, but you said a lot of a couple things that I've heard and I wanted to point out, because we have a public safety following, and just like you say, I see a lot of hustle, and you said it. Fire department, most of those guys have a hustle, but not all of them generate the kind of income and lead to the type of opportunities that you did in just real estate. And what I heard out of that was, man, you figured it out. You weren't born into real estate. Sounds like you had some construction, a little bit of know-how there to where you could build, which is one of the things that always holds me back, because I can't read a tape measure. Now I can, since they're digital. And I can, Lowe's will cut my lumber for me. Uh, but that's a fireman's skill. That's a public safety skill, but it's also a skill that a lot of people have, that just stepping into it and saying, "Hey, I'm going to figure this out. I want to do this and I'm going to figure it out." Man, you're right. The fire department is, when you're trying to take the skills, and this is sometimes hard, is when you're trying to take those fire department skills and apply them, sometimes people cut that off and they just say, "Oh, that's fire department." And they try to go over here and recreate. So it's all the same, because it's just figuring out where the bridge is. Leading, if you can lead the fire department, if you can project manage in the fire department, you can have a rental, or you can have your own type thing, or they can come alongside you, Eric. And the other thing I heard is, like, you figured this out on your own. It doesn't sound like you had a lot of mentorship, or
that is actually a great point. Every step of the way, I did meet somebody.
there you go. Yeah.
And one of the things to this whole moving forward out of your comfort zone and figuring it out, is a humility to learn. Ask a dumb question to someone who is gonna really encourage you to, not only give you the answer, but lead you on the path, and encouragement, just kind of those advice things, those tips here and there go a long way. Having someone in your corner goes a long way. And I've been fortunate to get in a lot of professional communities that I sought out. And that was later when I realized I needed help. I sought out help. I asked them questions and just stayed humble to learn and read a lot of books. And yeah, so definitely there is a skill set that transfers.
When you
Decisiveness
have
too.
your network will generally be your net worth. You'll hear that. And if you're trying to get started, and we'll use this as the example as we go, but like if you're in this, you're like, I'd love to get into commercial real estate, or I'd love to get into real estate in general. Eric is someone who's there. And it's a matter of creating that and finding, seeking out is what does it take to work with Eric? Or in Eric's world is just, like you said, is you're fortunate to find the right people at the right time that help you move forward. And I always took for granted it might cost you a little money for mentoring, and that's okay because you're paying to collapse time and the power of that coach or whatever that looks like. But yeah, you're spot on with that, man. We don't do enough of that. We try to figure stuff out on our own, or you keep it secret. But it's you spoke to that, and you're always kind of wherever you want to get to. Is if you'll find the person that's succeeding in that area, whether that's real estate, gym ownership, business, whatever. If you'll find whoever's succeeding where you're trying to go and connect with them, you'll find most of the time they'll help you. And then you don't have to figure it out on your own. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and going to someone and saying, "Hey, I don't know how to do this, but if you show me
Yeah,
what to do, I'll help you out. I'll do the legwork." Anywhere you can learn. And yeah, and
YouTube doesn't cost
in-person
anything.
community is not bad either. Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube may not, when you work through everybody's, well, I don't have the money to pay. YouTube doesn't charge. There's enough free content. People
Oh
put
yeah.
out enough free content on YouTube. Make sure it's vetted, that you find what you look. But, there's enough free content and repetition. When you hear the same thing over and over, it's like, all right, this has got to be the plan. Um, I always tell everyone you can go to YouTube, you can find blogs, you can find all sorts of information. And one thing I tell people not to do is don't, Instagram with the right person. You can scroll and you can find what you're looking for, but sometimes Instagram is that person who's not really, they can't back up what they're saying. It's a little glitz and glamour and a little social media type stuff, but they're creating a lifestyle that's not existent. But you talked about failing forward. Is there a specific failure that ended up teaching you that critical lesson, or a critical lesson that you could contribute to your success today?
I one of my last renovation projects, I actually went with a general contractor,
Yeah.
and that was a tough one. That was a tough pill to swallow. I got stuck with a $20,000 HVAC bill that I thought he had been paying on, which he hadn't. So when I fired him, and this is after, he had a foreman that I said, you got to get rid of this guy or we're done. And he fired him, brought him back a week later. And then I fired the contractor a week later because nothing had changed.
Yeah.
And so I get this $20,000 something bill for the HVAC that went in wrong anyway. And they want to put a lien on the house. So I had to suck it up and I had to pay that. And I was out, some good chunk of change on that project. And that just solidified my idea that, you're always going to be managing. If you're a landlord, it's a full-time job. If you have a property manager, you're still on a part-time job. And then when you can go passive into, a limited partnership, which is just, you pulling your money together with other people and going passive, then it really gets to be kind of as close to that passive side as you can. And hey, Jeff, before I forget regarding content, I am on LinkedIn. So any listener that wants to dive in, DM me for sure, because I love sharing good content.
What's your LinkedIn handle? What do you got up under your name?
Yeah, it's under my name, ERIC.
Yeah.
Eric Burns.
I'll make sure that's in our notes. And I do a little blog post for our episodes as well. So I'll make sure that everyone can get in touch with you. And
good.
The industry you're in, there's such a bunch, because everybody's like, oh, it's easy money. I want to get in that, find that easy money. But you also speak to the parts that aren't easy. And when you're it could be easy money, it's passive, it's all those things, but you also $20,000. So having someone with the, I was on the phone on my way to record, and I was telling the person on the phone um, they had said something. I was like, they talk about failure, and I said, well, hold on here. I make money teaching off my failures.
Mhm.
And and saying, but here's what you do, and I do this as well. I help people save a lot of money off my failures. And the stuff that you've learned, and it can be just your knowledge and the stuff that you do. You When you get into just like where we're there with financial freedom through passive income, it's kind of is essential to your message. What strategies or mindset shifts do you recommend for people wanting to step away from trading time for money?
So really, I think leaning into content, if you are running a business that you want to turn in to something that will lead to financial freedom, really lean into some of this business development, build a system around it. Public service, fire department, police department, we work around a very structured system. Then we turn around and consistently act with incomplete information. So we move boldly at work. And then when it comes down to life and wrapping our head around that, it is hard to break that mentality. So when I'm going back now, all I've learned about putting together businesses and things like that, really lean into that like any learning experience. And approach that as buying a rental, like I approach buying a rental. Just take that first step and then really look and see where you can systematize. There's a lot of access to VAs, leaning into marketing if you are, really wanting to scale is a huge, huge first step. So, just remember, you do act on incomplete information quite a bit. So educate yourself to the point where you can take that next step in your business, or that your comfortability is up to part of where you can enter a situation where you're pulling your money with other people and buying an apartment. Um, and find someone that can help you on that journey. Like, if it's not me, there are plenty of other people that enjoy working with investors and growing with them, and it's done by educating them. So YouTube, if you're a construction guy out there, YouTube videos might be really great for you. How-to videos, exposure, drive traffic to your business, things like that maybe you haven't thought of that can really level you up. And a lot of it is just like we have spoken on, is the content, finding the right content, and just kind of being bold. And it's always takes longer, and it's always harder than you think, but it's a lot more rewarding than you would have guessed when you start out too.
You've 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 put on many hats on your journey, and now you kind of act as more of a syndicate type, in this world where you're able to act in the on the investment side of it. So explain to I have done some really cool training on this. Just it makes me dangerous to know the terms, right? Syndicate and different real estate type stuff. When we were in at the gym, one of our goals was try to own our own property. So we spent a lot of time on just learning commercial real estate and what it takes to move, and um, there's a couple of key takeaways that I had from that. And one of them is everybody's got to win. And you just always remember that if in real estate, everybody's got to win. If you get a reputation as being one-sided or greedy, people won't work with you. And but um, how does Flowers Capital? If I'm a person that's like, oh, you know what, I know absolutely nothing about real estate, but I know I want to get involved in it. How do you help insert people that where they can invest in real estate and kind of walk everybody through what that looks like? Um, just to give us the idea of what if someone says all right, using me as a good example is I'd love to invest in real estate, but yeah, I can't repair. I'm not a construction guy, and I would feel like that would be where I would be losing a lot of money is in paying contractors to come in and different things where you have the knowledge on pricing and whatever. So immediately for me, I'm like, I like the way this sounds. But speak to kind of explain how that all works for the person who doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. So basically what it is you're, what we'll do is, on our side of the fence, Jeff, we'll pool all our money together. And then, I've found a great operator that's buying an apartment in Phoenix, for example. So if we wanted to get in on that deal, we all pool our money, and where we can't all put in, $1 million, but we can pool our money with a number of people and get a night, and get into these deals as a conglomerate, as a partnership. So syndication is not as nefarious as it sounds, right? Like,
Yeah.
all it is like, there's the operators that find the deal, get the debt terms, do all the work, run the deal, run the property. And then there's us. We're passive investors. We pool our money, put it in one time, and we get hopefully close to those expected returns passively,
Yeah. What are the key factors, that you consider before taking on that new commercial real estate deal?
Mm-hmm. So when I look at them, I look at the underwriting, which is can be pretty a lot more intricate for a commercial property than a residential. And there's a lot of different types of numbers and like basically formulas you have to learn and learn how everything works together. But when I look at a new deal, it's usually from an operator I already know. A lot of my operators I've known, I connected with on a personal level,
Yeah.
and then found out what asset class they were in. Hey, hey Jeff, like you were a cop, I was a fireman. And then the next day it goes, hey, what do you do, by the way?
Yeah.
And you say, oh, well, I'm in commercial and I buy apartments. And you say, okay, well, I raise money. What kind of deals do you have? And then we go down that road. Make sure the underwriting, the financial analysis is what that is. Make sure that the assumptions that they're making, you don't want to go in relying on rents going up crazy, and you don't want to rely on a market rebound when there's no indication that there will be one. All these sorts of things are evaluated, and then they're evaluated by me. So when we go in, it's with operators we know, projects that financially make sense to us and that we're confident in. Going from there, and the market too. The market is a huge thing. The supply and demand in the market is another big factor.
Do you have an ideal client that you like to work with at Flowers, or is it like because I'm gonna tell you my assumption in my head. I don't
Okay.
have enough money to get in this game. I don't have enough money to get in this game, or it's a rich man's game. I don't know. I'm matching out my retirement, whatever that might look like. Those unknowns. That's kind of what I hear. Like if folks don't understand, like you exist, you don't. Sometimes it don't take a lot of money. Or is there a dollar or figure that you look for, or is it based on the project?
It's somewhat, sometimes it's based on the operators that we'll be working with, if they have a preference. If not, usually it's between 25 and 50. And so to work and to put it in perspective, so one of the operators may operate in Dallas and they buy
Yeah.
really great deals, and they buy a number of them in Texas, where they might have a $250,000 minimum for one investor. That $250,000, we can get 10 of us together and we can be represented as that amount. So the fact that it used to be a rich man's game, now
There
it's
you
so
go.
much more accessible because
Yeah.
it's so much easier for us to connect with each other,
Yeah.
and always And so it's probably not as overwhelming to get in passively as people might think.
Yeah.
The dollar amounts sometimes aren't as high as they would think. They are smaller when we all pool our money together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I, because you'll hear that. And folks are like, I don't understand how it works and the uncertainty of it. There's all sorts of things you'll hear, but that's what I want folks to understand when you're, two public safety folks that, you pound some weed here, we could probably go run a landscape business that's popular in the public safety. So for my public safety folks that are, I know your retirement's already there. You're working a side gig that is sometimes labor intensive and you're making good money. I have friends that are super successful in business. And they employ a lot of firefighters, right? So this is, when you look at what Eric's telling us here, and this is in my head, the way it works, this is my shift. This is my team of my shift. We're all getting together and be like, hey, you want to put in 10, you want to put it right? And everybody's pulling their money together with a trusted resource like Eric is. Eric meets all the, in order for him to trade his flowers capital, he has, he's met a lot of accreditations and through state requirements and different things. So he's someone that we can lean on. And then you'll hear people talk, well, I want a residential. I kind of know the answer here because I know how the benefits are. You know what? I think I want to just get me a duplex. Why are we looking at residential commercial? What makes commercial stand out, or what kind of advice would you give to someone when it's choosing between residential and commercial investments, like based off what you know now type thing? Is there any solid advice you'd like to you could give on that?
Absolutely. Right off the bat, decide where you want to end.
Yeah.
Do you want to end with, X amount of dollars, and how old are you? So I'm 43 here soon. And I know if I were to go buy a duplex right now, I could buy another duplex in 2 years, maybe a third in 2 years. And yeah, they do add up and they do build off of each other. But the time it would take me to get to that level is just time I don't have right now. Because my 40 and frankly, my 401k wasn't so huge when I retired because I was paying 20 grand in HVAC bills and all this stuff. But the growth that lost money brought me paid for itself. So
Yeah.
with residential, if you're young, look into a tactic called house hacking. Super effective. So if you're a young guy getting out there, young guy or gal getting out there, yeah, look into some of those residential things and see if they're a good fit. Understand it's going to be a lot of work. Tenants, landlording is not that fun, really.
No.
It gets old fast. And if you're looking to, and if you're kind of more in my situation, for me, I would want to look passively quickly. So to start looking at commercial, as of now, and there are different avenues you can take with moving retirement funds into a self-directed fund, which I'm not a tax guy and I'm not a financial advisor, but what they're called is self-directed IRAs. So with those, you can move your retirement accounts into an IRA that you operate. And there's actually what they call a custodian. So the custodian sets it all up. So there are just some kind of like financial instruments that you could use. And my fear is that I'm going to come to the end of my career and all this stuff and realize I left it on the table. I left a lot on the table. And, I think there's room for out there, and, you're decisive at work, and, you're in risky positions, like, and I think we forget that a lot too when we're at work, Jeff, like, you're like, you don't really realize, like, until you look in hindsight, like, ooh, that wasn't that good. That wasn't that good. Like, we're not in a good spot, So, you have, first responders, they have a stomach for risk, and sometimes it's just the nuts and bolts of how to get it done. And so, yeah, kind of decide whether you have time to build a residential portfolio, understanding that it's a full-time job, or looking to say, hey, maybe I do want to go passively. And another fear I would have too, is when I see guys that are getting to the retirement where they'll have to leave, and the stock market fluctuation is just not in their favor. And it's like, man, that's a big chunk of change that is just out of your control. So, uh, commercial real estate is considered less volatile, still an investment, still a risk, but less volatile. So I am a advocate of, definitely passive income. Don't trade your time for money. Don't do any of that. But I'm also an advocate of diversifying.
Yeah.
You got a business, you might want to get at, you might want to look and say, hey, how do I protect my life and my business with a passive income stream? Things like that. So yeah, kind of decide what you want out of it. And if you start and you build residential, and it comes time to start looking for that passive, you sell them and you move into a syndication, right? That's kind of like what I did. I sold all my residential stuff. So yeah, kind of decide what you want your goal to be.
So since we're insert your career, folks, whoever's listening. We're going to talk to the fireman who's 8 years in the job. And I'll tell you why I say 8 years, because 8 years, you're like, everybody's convinced you that it's worth to get to 20 to 25. And that's the first thing your city or your killer. It's like, oh, you're so, I mean, 8 years. I mean, think about it, Jeff. In 12 years, you'll be able to retire. And I'm like, that's 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's 12 years. And, the other thing is speaking of that is we get into funding a lot of firefighters, secretary, administration, whatever role you're playing, nurse, doctor, there's this, I want to fund my kids' college. I want to do, is it, is investing, while you're on the job and doing those things and you got your retirement, is taking the opportunity to invest in real estate, like with you. Do you see that being something that really helps you be able to address your family's needs long term? Uh, do you see that as something to where I can put my kids through college when it comes time, or I can have that pot of money? I think it's where folks get lost sometimes is we go all in on those 20 years, you live in paycheck to paycheck, getting all the things. And you're sold this whole dream of just stay here for 20 years. And I look back on it now and I go, that's 20 years. That's a long time, right? It's a long time for your life. Is that something where you could see that folks could, where they could like ultimately really change their family's footprint and their family's dynamics through investing in a company like Flowers Capital?
Absolutely. And actually, to kind of put it in perspective, the benchmark for the industry, and depending on how the market's doing and all that, you really hope to double your investment amount in about 5 to 7 year, depending on the project hold period. So, if you take, you take a chunk and you have consistently compounding passive income, it does add up quick, and it does make a difference. And if you reinvest, I mean, it is a huge boost in net worth for little effort. So it makes an impact, and the returns are great. And you can still go out and still run your business and still go to the firehouse. But to make a difference in the lives of the people around you, absolutely. And because the returns are consistently good,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, like the stock market, having a recession and year 24 when you're retiring in 9 months. You've already got all those. If you're at 8 years, you got 12 years. You've doubled your money almost 3 times over.
Yeah. Powerful study. And listen, that's just, that's your first deal. That's, you have opportunities for multiple deals. It's not I think I think when people are looking for their best options is learning a lot about commercial real estate, during business ownership and knowing even, what it takes to own your properties. But then when you have opportunities and the stuff I spoke this morning, and I always teach on relationships and reputation. It's one of the two things I enjoy teaching to business people because this talk today was on government contracting and, it holds the same. But the same thing is creating that relationship with someone like Eric who can mentor, who can guide you, through those steps. And I think I think we overlook it and we're afraid to, or there's uncertainty. But the cool thing now, and this is why it's amazing to be, we can connect. I'm out of Virginia, you're in Cincinnati, we met online, right? We have this ability to sit down and we can get to know you and your company. And there's information I can go and check your reputation and all those things that helps. Because it used to be like, listen, you would do this in your neighborhood, within your zip code. You would know your broker. You would know the people. You would never invest far out. And yeah, our game's changed. And
Mhm.
having someone like you that can help everyone navigate that, and trusted, who's been there and done that, is a big deal, right? I just think there's a lot to, to keep to go back to, is the ability to be able to take your extra money, trade your time, in a positive manner where people, a lot of things people don't realize. You get into business to buy time back. You
Mm.
don't, and to create jobs and economic impact. You don't necessarily want to get into business to work 80 hours a week. That's not, they know we want to make more family time and we want to make, yeah. How's that dynamic for you? Is that fire department? You have the kids and all those things, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So for me, it looks like moving forward, what kind of experiences can I really open myself up to and open that up to my family and my friends that I love and bring them into these experiences? How can I change Cincinnati and go back to that neighborhood that I spent 17 years in working and help the people that I really, I miss them. I miss my people in the neighborhood. So how can you give back? How can you, and I love the word impact. How can you make an impact? Who can you impact? Um, and so, yeah, it is actually, yeah, I don't have kids. It's just me and my Labrador. So
Yeah.
he is very high maintenance. So it's a full-time
Yeah.
job there. But anyways,
But you speak to that and you encourage people to live life bullish.
mhm.
What does that mean, and how does that play into how you approach your business and personal?
Yeah, being a stock market term, live like bullish. I got that off my grandpa. So, and actually that's how the company got named, was Sheldon Flowers. Um, and I had to sit down and explain to him why I thought my first rental property was a good idea and the numbers worked, and he signed off on it and encouraged me to just go out there and do it. And in hindsight, I'm going, how did he ever agree to this half-baked scheme? But he
Yeah.
encouraged me and he believed in me. So when it comes time, to put it in action, it's a lot of fun. So
When someone encourages you and believes in you, you can. I mean, it's a lot. It's transferring that power into your mindset.
yeah,
Um,
and the
yeah.
term itself is a stock market term. So when the market's bullish, we're all optimistic and human behavior. None of us buy low, sell high. We all know we should. None of us do it. Um, so to live life bullish is to get out there, be optimistic, bet on yourself, take a chance. And if you want something, if you want that experience, and you think you want to change someone's life, go do it. Just go do it.
You've as we wrap up here, and we talked like you've made this amazing progressions through life and how you approach your money now, but you also had some serious challenges: childhood cancer, financial setbacks. How does those shape how you approach your business and life now?
Perspective, I think.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. When I was my retirement was unexpected. So I was very thankful that I had leaned in to these other avenues of making money and aspects of myself that I feel like I had kind of nurtured over the years. Um, Much of it was encouraged, sometimes nicely, sometimes not nicely
yeah.
by the guys I worked with. But yeah, I mean, to deal with the setbacks for me, it's perspective. So I don't want to go back and I don't want to look at, man, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Man, I will, and live in the past and wish you could change things. No. Um, look to the future and say, okay, that was a setback. Man, that was a hard season of life, but I got through it. And guess what? I'm more resilient than I realized, and I learned a lot and all this stuff. So take your past as a stepping stone, reframe your failures into lessons, and go. And when you hit those hard seasons of life, it's not the end. It doesn't feel good, but you're also probably growing as a person. And you're probably going to end up coming out of that a lot stronger and a lot more resilient than you realized. And if you don't stop and look back and give yourself credit for that, then you'll forget, then you won't realize it. You'll live in the negative and you won't appreciate the person you're becoming because of the trial.
Sometimes it takes an outside voice to help you see that.
Hmm.
I do some podcasting myself as a guest, and I keep some notes here. I speak on growth's not always up, and I wanted to cap off just what I was looking at while we were talking. 3 points that Eric has drove home from the stuff I talk about. Failure is your best teacher. Stepping outside your comfort zone feels uncomfortable, and resilience is built in the struggle. And you've touched all those. We're gonna bookmark your LinkedIn in our show notes. We've told our audience and everyone who's listening to this that's looking for that alternate source. If you're maxing, Dave Ramsey's going to say you're maxing out your retirement, you're doing this, whatever you can do, whatever that looks like, whatever your financial advisor looks like. But I'm providing you with a resource here with Eric, who's got an open door through LinkedIn, and I'm going to bookmark his website, whatever information that we have there. And if this is something you're interested in, this is Eric's been there, done that. We've spoke briefly, but being a business guy and knowing enough about what it takes to have your your own capital company is, there's a lot that goes into that from the regulatory side as well. So don't be afraid to reach out for this guy and connect with him and change your family tree. Because that's what he's absolutely doing in his own way for himself. Is he's changed how he approaches a game, man. And I was excited to talk to you. Can't thank you enough. And I look forward to after this Phoenix project's done, I'd love to have you back just to talk about the aftermath and what that looked like. And maybe we can create a separate conversation on, all right, this is what we did. This is how the deal came together. This is how the people are working. And this is what we're projecting right now, just to give our listeners who are on the fence, who are like, yeah, guys, I don't know that, guys. I don't know. I ain't know. I'm going to walk my money in and hand it to the guy at the bank. Um, or I'm going to put it in this 401k every day. Hopefully, as that comes to life, Eric, you'll reach out for me and you and I can jump back on. I'd love to hear the success and not always success, but I'd love to hear the struggles and then ultimately where you're on that project. That's okay.
Oh, I'd love that. This has been fun. So hopefully we'll wrap it up super quick so I can get back on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, and
No,
one thing I want to add is reach out, whether it's on LinkedIn or anything. I am a free resource for
yeah.
information too. So even if you just want a book recommendation, I'll give you a couple must reads and a couple good content platforms to check out too. So yeah,
That's what we'll
don't
do.
feel like there's an obligation. Like I'm a free resource too.
Yeah, here's what we'll do. This is what I'll encourage folks to do. Eric's sitting on 2 books. that he's going to recommend, and all you got to do is reach out for him. And it's been books that has helped accelerate him to where he's at. We're not going to mention them. My call to action for each one of you is to connect with Eric, get those 2 books, and start there. Start that conversation with him there. Read those books. Consume some of the information he's talking about. Learn who Eric is before you give him $10,000, $100,000. Learn who he is as a person, get to know him, and then but definitely connect with him and get those books. And I think that would be a great way to start any conversation. So, yeah, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Jeff. That was a good time. Appreciate it.